Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 108 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? Are you doing really good?
No, I'm great, which is better than really good.
It is, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a step up.
I'm stupendous.
Ooh, that's a good one. Stupendous. You and your vocabulary.
Exactly.
You know what? I had some vocabulary this week that I liked.
You had some vocabulary this week.
Learned some vocabulary this week.
It's like somebody served you some vocabulary.
Here's your vocabulary, sir. I'm like, oh, awesome.
Did you have that delivered? Or did you have to go out and get that?
Nah, they brought it to me. I'm like, that's stupendous, man. Thank you. But they were great. And some of them were from some movies I've seen.
The words? Okay, I'm just trying to...
And I'm like, I never heard that before. Let me look it up. You know? I'm like, oh, I like that. I've got to use that. And now here we are. And I can't remember one freaking word.
Oh, and you probably were thinking, you know what? I'm going to use that on the next episode. I'm going to blow Ferguson's socks off.
I was. But now I don't.
Now you got nothing.
And I had 3 of them too.
You know what? They've got this thing. I use it sometimes. It's
piece of paper.
Piece of paper. You can use a pencil. You can use a pen.
Yeah, but see, you call me out on that. See, I gotta maybe I should put on this.
Why would I call you out for making notes? I would actually think you're into it then.
I need to have so you think I've always known this word.
Or you have a computer.
I know.
You could have typed it on there.
I could have put it right there.
You just keep telling on yourself. All right, man. We got some new Patreon supporters. Let's give some shout outs.
Let's hear them.
We had Jenny Rothberg.
Hey, Jenny.
David Sanders.
Thank you, David.
Emma Pete.
Just Emma Pete?
Just Emma Pete.
Emma and Pete? Or like Pete, like P-E-T or P-E-A-T?
It's actually P-E-U-T.
Oh, that's Pete.
Okay. I don't know. I was going with Pete. Could be Poit.
Emma Pete.
I don't know. Adriana Groves.
Thank you, Adriana.
Arsenic Soap.
Well, that's a soap that you may decide not to use.
Or you shouldn't lick, for sure.
Definitely shower your mouth closed.
Abby B.
Hey, Abby.
Opal Hutt.
Opal.
Cindy.
Just Cindy?
Chantel Smith.
Oh, Chantel.
Kim Dimling.
Really? Like that's thing you get at the Asian restaurant?
That's a dumpling.
No, dim sum.
Oh, dim sum.
Dim sum.
Sarah Wadley.
Hey, Sarah.
Riley Muller.
Muller or Muller?
Well, I think on Patreon, I said Mueller. And it could be that. But it could be Muller, too. I don't know.
Bueller.
Jimmy Rice.
Hey, Jimmy.
Jessica.
Just Jessica?
Karen.
Just maybe Jessica and Karen ought to meet. You know, maybe just Karen.
Bryn Hogan.
You know, I wonder. Related to the Hulk.
Related to the Hulkster?
Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Marion Maynor.
Hey, Marion.
Angie Barnes.
Thank you, Angie.
Grace Brunei.
Hey, Grace. I like that name.
Adriana Martinez.
Adriana.
Lindsay Adair.
Hey, thanks, Lindsay.
Sabrina Veet.
Sabrina?
That's the one you're having trouble with? Sabrina?
Clearly.
She jumped out to our highest level.
Thank you.
Kara Reynolds.
Thank you, Kara.
Elise Catterall.
Ooh, Catterall.
And Lindsay Kane.
That Catterall, is that things you get in your eyes?
Those are cataracts.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Lindsay.
And if we go back into the vault, Gibbs.
Sure.
This week we selected Lois Carey.
Hey, Lois.
Been with us a long time. Going back to 2017. It's amazing.
It was a good year.
2017, that was a good year.
Yeah, I think so.
It's amazing how much new support we're getting, but how many people stick with us month after month. It really means a lot.
The stick to us-ness is good.
And then we had some PayPal support. Joelle Myers.
Hey, Joelle.
Ania Howard.
Thank you, Nita.
Kate Massey.
Kate.
And Allison Burks.
Hey, Allison.
All right, we have a True Crime All-Time episode out right now. It's on James Rupert. This is a mass murderer. Killed his entire family.
Yeah, big family, too.
Big family. 11 people on Easter Sunday in 1975.
All come gather around the table for Easter brunch.
It was a brutal massacre.
Yeah.
Is what it was. And it's very close to us. 25, 30 minutes away from where we live.
Yep.
It is one of the most horrific mass murders in a private residence, right? There have been the school shootings, the concert, church shootings, all of those things. But in a private residence, as far as mass murders, it's up there.
Definitely ranks.
Don't forget about CrimeCon. If you're buying your badge, make sure you use our code CrimeAllTheTime19.
Yeah, be there. Meet us down at the place. Mike's buying everybody beignets.
It'll be fun. What else was I going to say, Gibbs? Oh, whistles. Man, the whistles are really selling well on the website.
Flying off your shelf.
Yeah, people seem to like them. So
I just saw 5 go out the door just a minute ago.
If you have not been on the TCAT website lately, jump on. There's some new stuff on there, and definitely people are liking the whistles.
We got a website?
Yeah.
Really?
We got a couple.
Yeah, it's cool. Is that where the voicemail number is located?
TrueCrimeAllTime.com.
Yeah.
There's also a link to our merchandise page.
Really?
We probably should say it more often. We just don't.
Yeah, I just wonder,
All right. Are you ready to get into this episode of Unsolved?
I am.
We are talking about the murder of Faith Hedgepeth. And this occurred on the morning of September 7th, 2012. Faith Hedgepeth was 19 years old.
Yeah.
She was found in her apartment by a close friend. Faith had been beaten over the head with a blunt object. She had also been sexually assaulted. So let's talk a little bit about Faith. Faith Danielle Hedgepeth was born on September 26, 1992, in Warrenton, North Carolina, to Ronald and Connie Hedgepeth. The Hedgepeths belong to the Haliwa Saponi Native American tribe.
Yeah, which is a fairly large tribe in that area, about 5,000 members strong. So to me, that's a large tribe.
So Faith was born into this tribe. She was the youngest of 4 children. She had an older sister and 2 older brothers. But her parents divorced just a year after she was born. It's been reported that Faith's father, Ronald, had a pretty serious drug problem at this time. So it was left to Connie to raise these 4 children. Faith being very young, her older sister had to help out.
Yeah, she gave a helping hand, for sure.
So as Faith grew up, she did well in school. She was a cheerleader. She belonged to a number of extracurricular groups. She was in some clubs.
As you were.
As I was.
That's right.
I was in the club that was beating up your chess club. I forget. We didn't have a name. We just called it the club.
And you guys went after all the chess?
No, just you.
Just me.
When you were in the chess club.
Yeah. I was like that kid that was that good in chess. The movie was made after him.
Searching for Bobby Fischer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
He was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
She was also an honor student.
Like myself.
Just like yourself. Unlike yourself, she got a pretty prestigious scholarship.
Yes, she did.
It's called the Gates Millennium Scholarship to attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
I got the Colonel Sanders local community free bucket of chicken. Good luck. And yeah.
I don't even think you got that, son. I really don't.
Actually, I did not. You caught me.
Now, her dad had attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, but he didn't graduate. So he was there for some time, but he dropped out. You know, Gibbs, me being a Kentucky Wildcat fan, it's a little hard to talk about UNC.
Yeah.
Not as hard as it is to talk about Duke.
That's why I did not go with the Duke story.
Okay.
I
have a lot of buddies that are North Carolina Tar Heel fans.
Yeah.
I also have a lot of buddies that are Duke fans. I get along much better with the UNC fans. I'll just put that out there.
There you go.
So back to Faith. She was hoping to be the first person from her family to actually graduate from
I think that's great.
college. And she was thinking about a couple of different career paths. And they were pretty different career paths.
Yeah, that's pretty wide selection there.
You know, very similar to the conversations that I have with my oldest.
Yeah.
Who's getting ready to go off.
I can visualize that right now.
You know, it's at one point rocket science.
Yeah.
The hardest medical degree you can think of.
Yeah.
and then a teacher, and then something totally unrelated to any of it.
Yeah, I'm going into accounting.
Yeah, so she's all over the map. Now, the choices that Faith was thinking about was a pediatrician or a teacher.
Well, both are working with kids. One takes a whole lot more
Schooling.
post-education.
Yep. My youngest daughter actually wants to be a pediatric surgeon.
Oh, good.
And you know my wife's a teacher, so
Right.
I'm kind of in the middle of those two. So Faith was a good student. And the first 2 years at college, they sailed by pretty quickly. She did well. She did decide to take the spring semester off in 2012. And I think kids do that, right? You're moving along.
Yeah.
At some point, sometimes you need a break.
Just need to step back for a minute. Make sure you're going the right direction.
Now, a lot of people would say, well, that's what the summer's for.
Well, sometimes you need a long summer.
Sometimes you need the spring and summer.
Yes.
But even though she took the spring semester off, she decided to stay in Chapel Hill during that spring semester and even stayed there into the summer.
Yeah. I know when you went to OU, you probably came home every summer because you missed your mom.
I did. I missed my mommy.
Yeah. But some kids be like, yeah, I'll just stay right here and keep partying on.
Well, to be fair, I think Chapel Hill is a pretty beautiful place to be.
Yeah, I would say so.
North Carolina, that area of the country. Faith lived in an apartment complex called the Hawthorne at the View. That sounds fancy.
It does.
Probably not as fancy as it sounds, but
Well, still had a fancy name.
the apartment complex actually straddled two different counties. Straddled Durham County and Orange County. She did have plans tentatively to move out of that apartment complex in August into another one once her financial aid package came in that fall.
That makes sense. You're always waiting for that financial package that gives you all that extra cashola that helps you make some important decisions. One, your education. Two, where am I going to live and who am I going to live with?
Well, you got to have the money.
Got to have the money.
To do those things. Faith's roommate at the Hawthorne apartment was a girl by the name of Karina Rosario.
And at the same time, she met Karina's boyfriend, Eric Jones.
So they were boyfriend, girlfriend, freshman year and stayed together. Is that the norm? I would say it's not the norm.
That would be tough to do your freshman year.
Freshman year is usually finding out who you are, partying.
Yeah. Sowing your oats.
Going Frank the Tank, running around, going to KFC.
KFC, finger looking good.
But these two were still together. But the relationship wasn't smooth sailing, right? Karina and Eric fought a lot. Police were called out a number of times over that span for, I guess you'd have to call it, Gibbs, domestic violence type situations. It's a little fuzzy who was the aggressor in every situation, who was charged, if anybody. But what we do know is that Eric tried to break into Karina and Faith's apartment twice in 2012, and then Karina broke up with him. And that led to Faith helping Karina to get a protective order to essentially keep Eric out of the apartment, to keep him away from her. But this caused friction, or animosity is probably a better word, Gibbs.
Sure.
Eric wasn't happy with the fact that Faith got involved in what I'm assuming he thought was a situation between Karina and himself.
Yeah, I think at one point, allegedly, he told Faith, hey, if Karina doesn't take me back, I'm going to kill you because you helped her and you put this poison in her mind that I'm bad for her.
Which is extremely hard to make that leap.
Right.
Right. I get it that that's what he thinks.
Sure.
But I think most normal people looking at the activities from the outside would say Faith was being a good friend and trying to help protect her friend Karina.
Yeah, get her out of a bad situation.
Exactly. But it's important, right? That's not the way that Eric saw it. Now, on Thursday, September 6, 2012, sometime 5:30, 6 o'clock p.m., Faith and Karina were attending a sorority event for the Alpha Pi Omega sorority. This was a sorority that Faith was hoping to get into.
Well, it had some historical ties to Native Americans.
So that probably added to the importance, right, to her in wanting to be a part of that specific sorority. So they went to this event and they left around 7:15 because Faith had to work on a paper, and the paper was focused on the history of her local Native tribe. So the pair went to the University of Davis Library to research and study. It was about 8 p.m. when they arrived at the library. Sometime after 8:30, but before 9 p.m., Faith texted her dad to tell him how excited she was to join this sorority.
Which is cool. I mean, she's pumped up. She's like, hey, I really like the sorority. I think I'm in. You know,
I hope they take me. I can't wait.
It's got, our Native American culture connection. It's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. So Faith and Karina are at the library, and they stayed there a couple hours, and they had work to do. Faith left, but Karina stayed at the library. She had some more studying she wanted to get done, but Faith wasn't gone long. She returned to the library around 11:30 p.m., and she and Karina headed out. They went back to their apartment. They freshened up because they had made the decision that they were going to go out. They were going to hit a nightclub called Thrill, which was located in downtown Chapel Hill. So both Karina and Faith are underage. But allegedly, this nightclub Thrill was a place that the students liked because they could drink, whether they were 21 or not, drink and dance, right? That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah. And they walked into the nightclub about 12:30, and they would dance and stay there till about 2 a.m. until Karina started feeling sick to her stomach. She just wasn't feeling good, and they needed to leave. So they left the nightclub, and they do have some surveillance from the nightclub showing that the girls left about 2:06 a.m.
Which is pretty exact, but that's what you get, right, with video surveillance.
I mean, it's limited, right? It's showing them at the nightclub doors, and then that's where that video surveillance
Yeah,
comes.
but you get some time stamping.
Sure,
Right,
absolutely.
which helps. According to a neighbor, Faith and Karina got back to their apartment around 3 a.m. And it was this same neighbor who lived below the two girls. She said that she was still up that night, or I guess early morning, Gibbs, at that point. She was watching TV when all of a sudden she heard 3 loud thumping noises, like something heavy being dropped on the floor.
Yeah, which is strange.
Very strange. Now, later on, investigators are going to figure out that during this span of time, right, 3 o'clock to 3:30, 3:40, kind of time frame that we're going to be talking about here, someone logged onto Faith's Facebook account. And then shortly after 3:40 a.m., Brandon Edwards, this is a guy that was one of Faith's former boyfriends. He received a text message that read, quote, "Hey B, can you come over here, please? Karina needs you more. Aha, you know. Please let her know you care." And then a few minutes later, he got another text from Faith's phone that said THAN. That's all it said, right? The word than, as in, and if you read it out, it makes sense. The aha wasn't really supposed to be an aha. It was supposed to be than. So this last text was correcting the aha mistake. And if you read it as then, it makes perfect sense. And it wasn't until around 4:16 a.m. that Brandon texted back, and he texted something that's a little curious. It says, "Who is this?"
Yes, maybe he woke up and it's like, who's this?
Who's this? Although you would think he would see who the text was from. He wouldn't need to ask who is this unless he thought someone other than the name showing up on his phone was texting him.
Or they had a bad breakup and he deleted her.
Ooh, that's good.
Her phone number from the phone. So
that's actually a really good point. I was assuming that he would have had her contact information in there.
Yeah.
Actually went through a new phone conversion a while back. I lost all my contacts A, B, and C because somehow we're all on the same Apple ID.
Oh.
And my girls thought, who are these people? They started deleting all these contacts.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Because they thought they were just deleting them from their phone.
Right.
Turns out, gone.
Wiping them all out.
Yeah, I don't even know who I lost.
Yeah. So if you were a friend of Mike's and you haven't heard from him in a while.
A, B, or C.
Yeah. Now you know why. Let me give you his number. His direct line is.
Now, there were no other texts, right? Either sent by Faith's phone or received on her phone. The other thing that I think is interesting, around the same time that the texts are going to Brandon from Faith's phone records indicate that Karina was trying to call Brandon.
Well, maybe they were a little tipsy and
one's trying to text, one's trying to call. Maybe
that's what it was.
But either way, Brandon didn't answer those calls. Karina then called up a guy by the name of Jordan McCrary. He was a university soccer player that she was friends with. Not sure exactly what the phone call was about, but whatever it was about, it prompted Karina to leave the apartment.
Yeah, Jordan got over there to pick her up around 4:25. But when Karina left, she didn't lock up. She just assumed that Faith was asleep in her room, and she just left the door unlocked.
So Karina and Jordan drove over to a friend's house, and they got there around 4:30 a.m. So 5-minute ride, not very far.
Not very far to go.
I think you could have walked that one. But this is very early in the morning, right? Or very late at night. However you want to look at a go out, drink, party situation, it's 4:30 a.m.
It's early, man. There's not too many people doing things around 4:30 a.m. I got up the other day at 4:30 because I just couldn't sleep. So I said, you know what, I'll get up. I'll go into work early, get some things done. There wasn't nobody anywhere. You know, I get to work. It's like 2 people are there. I'm like,
it's 4:30 in the morning, dude. I don't even go to bed till like 2:30.
I know. I was like, what's this like, man? This is crazy. I want to go back to bed now. Now I'm tired.
But I think 4:30 is important for our story because there's really nothing else of note until 10:30 that morning when Karina wakes up at the friend's house that she and Jordan went to, and she tries to call Faith, but she doesn't get an answer. Karina calls another friend. She needs to ride back to her apartment at this point.
Yeah, I guess that 5-minute drive must be like a longer walk, and maybe she didn't want to make that hike. I don't know. Who knows?
So she calls her friend Marisol. Marisol came by, picked her up, and took her back to her apartment. And it's just a little bit after 11 a.m. This is September 7th, 2012, when Karina and Marisol walked into the apartment and they called out for Faith. They didn't get a response, so they went back to Faith's bedroom. And it's when they walked into her bedroom that they saw Faith's partially nude, bloody body wrapped in a quilt. She had been beaten to death and sexually assaulted. And Gibbs, there was blood spatter everywhere.
Yeah, it was brutal.
So it was at that point that Karina called 911. And I have some of that 911 call that I want to play.
Dial 911. Where is your emergency?
I just walked into my apartment and my friend is just like, she's unconscious.
Okay, what's your address, ma'am?
I live at Hawker at this view.
Give me the address.
I just moved here. I'm about to get it. Oh my God. It's 5639 Old Chapel Hill Road in Durham.
Okay, you say your friend is unconscious?
She's unconscious. I just walked in the apartment and there looks like there's blood everywhere.
Okay, listen to me. When you touched her, how does she feel? Does she feel warm?
No, she feels cold.
She feels cold? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Don't touch anything else, okay?
So obviously police are going to come to the scene quickly. They arrive, they process the crime scene, they collected semen from the crime scene. They're going to use that, right, to try to develop a DNA profile. This is 2012. We're not talking about 1988. We've got some pretty good DNA technology now at this point, but they pull other DNA as well from this crime scene. They pull some male DNA, and ultimately it matches the DNA profile from the semen. The problem is they don't know who it is, right? Not in any database, nothing like that. The coroner ruled Faith's cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head.
And they would confirm that she was sexually assaulted.
Her blood alcohol level was 0.02 at the time that the autopsy was performed. It was also noted that she had numerous cuts and bruises and that she had blood under her fingernails. And I think all of this suggested to authorities that she struggled with her killer.
Yeah, and I think her dad said it fairly well, that Faith was a fighter. Faith wouldn't have just went down without putting up a good fight to whoever this person was. And clearly she did.
And then when you get to murder weapon, I don't think the police could be certain, Gibbs, but they have come out and said that a rum bottle found in the apartment is what they believe to most likely be the murder weapon. But now we have to get back to Eric Jones, right? The whole talk that we had about Eric Jones, obviously that is going to put him on police radar. They knew he had past issues, domestic violence issues with Karina, and I'm sure at some point they learned that he threatened Faith's life.
And he did act kind of weird the night before. There's some things that he did that just would make you think, what's this all about?
Yeah, I think, police find out that around 6 p.m. the night before, Eric texted a friend asking for forgiveness for what he was about to do. And he essentially posted that same thing on his Twitter account. Okay, that's very odd. I don't know what you're about to do, but whatever it is, you need forgiveness.
Yeah, strange.
And just 3 days after the murder, he put this as his Facebook banner. Dear Lord, forgive me for all of my sins and the sins I may commit today. Protect me from the girls who don't deserve me and the ones who wish me dead today.
So it's a little bizarre.
All right.
Timing wise.
Yeah.
All of that is bizarre.
Well, at the very least, it's going to make police want to have a conversation with you. And they do, right? They interviewed Eric and they asked him to provide a DNA sample.
He was a little resistant at first.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But eventually he does. He provides a DNA sample and it will turn out not to match the DNA profile from the apartment, from the semen, all of that.
The police also asked for Brandon and Jordan both to provide samples, which both of those guys did, and they were cleared as well.
Well, you and I have researched a ton of cases. I just don't think, unless you are 100% confident, you're going to provide a DNA sample.
Exactly.
Unless you're compelled to by law.
Right.
But freely to give one tells me that you're feeling very confident about the fact that you had nothing to do with Faith's murder. All right, Gibbs, let's take our last quick break to talk about BetterHelp. Listen, folks, if there's something out there that's interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, BetterHelp Online Counseling is there for you. They offer licensed professional counselors who are specialized in issues such as depression, stress, anxiety, family conflicts, and so much more. You can connect with your professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. Anything you share is confidential. So you can now get help at your own time, at your own pace through secure video phone sessions. They have chat and text options. And if you're not happy with your counselor, you can request a new one at any time at no additional charge. And this is a truly affordable option. And TCAT listeners get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/TCAT. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/TCAT, fill out a questionnaire, and get matched with a counselor you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/TCAT. Now, there was another piece of evidence found at the scene, and it was in the form of a note that police feel was written by Faith's killer. They also feel the note shows that he was a jealous person. So we're going to go into this note. It was essentially a wrinkled up white piece of paper torn from a carryout bag, a white carryout bag. And police are going to figure out where it came from, right? It came from a place called the Time Out Restaurant, which was not far from Faith and Karina's apartment. Now, written in ballpoint pen on this wrinkled piece of paper was, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous." And I'm reading it that way very specifically because that's the way it's written, right? So think of it as three separate lines. The first line says, "I'm not stupid." And then the next two words are lines 2 and 3 all by themselves. It's a strange way to write. I'll say that. And I think, Gibbs, it's going to lead to a lot of speculation, right? About what does this mean? Are the words in the correct order, or in a rush did the writer juxtapose some of the words? But the note was found near Faith's body, but it didn't have any blood on it.
Which is strange for being an all white piece of paper, being that close to the body.
Yeah, being that close to the body, given the amount of blood spatter that we talked about. So police theorized that it had to have been written in another room or before the murder even occurred. When police analyzed the handwriting, they thought that it showed rage. And I think they're taking that from some of the words that are being used. Obviously, they are derogatory, to say the least. Now, some investigators thought that in a rush to write this note, and this is kind of what we were talking about, the killer meant to write, "I'm not jealous, stupid bitch," which as a sentence obviously makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, others feel that the note was written in stages, as if someone wrote, "I'm not stupid," then later on added the other two words at different points in time. And then there are people that say it doesn't mean anything. It was left at the scene near the body simply to throw off the police.
Like a red herring?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, police also have what they believe could be a voicemail from the killer. I mean, they have a voicemail. What they think is it could potentially be either someone connected to this case or even the killer himself. So we have to talk about this voicemail a little bit. One of Faith's friends received an accidental dial from Faith's phone,
We call a butt dial.
a butt dial, and it recorded a conversation hours before Faith's murder. The recorded portion in total was about 3 minutes long. There's 3 voices on the call. One is thought to be Faith. There's another female and a male. Both are unidentified. Using the timestamp of the call, police figured out that it was made while Faith and Karina were at the nightclub Thrill. And Gibbs, this recording is very hard to make out.
Very rough.
Yeah, it's very rough. I mean,
Muffled, you would say?
muffled on its own. I don't know how anybody could say that they definitively know what's being said.
Kind of like when I call you on a
On
2
a-
o'clock on a
yeah.
Saturday night.
Sure. But because of that fact, there's been a lot of people that have tried to enhance this audio using very, very expensive equipment. Even still, I'm not sure that you can be definitive. Now, people have said they think they hear this. You know, there are people that think they hear Faith crying. There are people that believe that at one point in the call, the male says to the other female, I think she is dying. The female says back, do it anyhow. There's definitely some arguing going on in the call. And there are many people that believe that the names Eric and Rosie are heard on the call. And those people believe that Rosie is short for Karina's last name, Rosario. Again, I've heard people say that they think somebody's rapping on the call.
Yeah. It's hard to tell them, man.
It's very hard to tell.
But the one thing, if it is 1:30 and it's at the nightclub, then we know it's not when she was murdered.
No.
So that doesn't add up. Doesn't make sense.
So this voicemail recording, whatever you want to call it, it is a big mystery in this case. Add to that the fact that some investigators have said that the time stamp on the call that they've been working on is possibly incorrect, because apparently this phone that Faith's friend had was notorious about having issues with time stamping. So that's just another something else to add into the mix.
It just makes that rabbit hole even deeper and wider, right? Because now you're thinking, well, wait a minute. If the timestamp's wrong and it was actually at the time of the murder, then what? You know what I mean? It leads you back and you're like, well, maybe it was this or that or
what
whatever.
if the timestamp's wrong on the video surveillance?
I mean,
And instead of leaving the club at 2:08, I think that one's less likely because of
Right.
some of the other things that happen.
But you can definitely see, you're right. This definitely could lead people in so many different directions.
So during the first week after Faith's murder, the University of North Carolina, Crime Stoppers, and Faith's tribe offered up a $29,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of her killer. And the police felt really good about the reward working, because just 4 years earlier in 2008, they had offered a similar reward. This was $25,000.
Yeah, for the killer of Eve Carson.
And that worked, right? That amount of money led to Eve's killer. So they were very hopeful. They were even more hopeful when the reward went up to $39,000 after the governor added another $10K.
Yeah, it's a good amount, actually. I mean, we've done enough podcasts about rewards, and I think any dollar amount's great.
It is.
But when you get up to this dollar amount or higher, I think it should help propel a lot more leads.
It should. I mean, obviously you get into some really high amounts, 100,000, 250, but by and large, unless you've got some big money backer, 5, 10, that's what I think we see a lot of times.
Yeah.
And you and I have even had discussions about it. I remember, is $5,000 enough for somebody to turn on another individual that they know killed someone?
In most cases, I say no.
I agree with you. I don't know if it is. It depends on that person, obviously.
Yeah.
But if they're a nefarious type person, they're not turning on somebody for $5K.
I don't know if they can make $5K selling drugs on the corner in a week
and not be labeled a rat.
Exactly.
So let's recap a little bit what the police and FBI know. They know they're looking for a male suspect. This person likely lived near Faith at some point in time, had an interest in her. They also believe that this person's mannerisms, the way that they go about their daily life, may have changed since the crime. And that includes showing an unusual amount of interest in the case.
We've seen that.
We have seen that. I mean, killers follow their cases. In some instances, they clip out newspapers. They record TV shows. It's well documented. It happens. But I do think when you talk about this person has changed their mannerisms, so I'm a creature of habit. You know that about me, Gibbs. I pretty much do the same thing, give or take, week after week. I eat at the same places. It's just the way I am.
Yeah.
I buy the same type of clothes when the other one either doesn't fit or wears out. If all of a sudden I completely change a part of my life, like the way that I do things at my core, that would be very strange. You would find that strange.
Oh, I would find it. I'd be like, what's going on here?
And you would think, what the hell's Ferguson up to? He's either going through a midlife crisis or something's wrong. And I think that's what they're kind of saying, right? They're looking for somebody that maybe not to an extreme, but they've changed something. They're acting differently. I think, Gibbs, one of the biggest things that police and FBI and any other agency knows is that they've got some really good evidence, right? They have DNA evidence that they believe could be from Faith's killer. So it was in September 2013. This is a year after her murder that Chapel Hill police formally requested the assistance of the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. That agency had provided some help early on in the investigation, but I think by and large, during that first year, the Chapel Hill police had done most of the work. In 2016, the police asked Parabon Nanolabs, a DNA testing company, to take a look at their DNA and do some genetic phenotyping on it.
That's a new word or
it's
process.
Huge. It's huge. Morph and I did a whole season on criminology on cases solved by not so much genetic phenotyping, but that was a big part, Parabon Nanolabs. But then when you get into, how they caught the Golden State Killer or the person they believe is the Golden State Killer, that whole working the genetic ancestry down. And we'll talk about it later. I'm assuming that's what they're going to try in this case,
right?
If they haven't already. But this genetic phenotyping on its own is very cool. It can basically predict eye color, hair color, skin color, freckling, ancestry. It can essentially give you a composite of what a person might look like based on their DNA. In the past, you would have to have had somebody who saw a killer.
Yeah.
And worked with a sketch artist and said, okay, here's what they look like. Here's what their nose looked like. They had big floppy ears, no hair. Now, yeah, it looked like me. Now with this genetic, phenotyping, they can kind of get that without anybody ever having seen the killer at all.
I think it's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
But from tiny little DNA, this composite drawing will appear.
So a lot of agencies around the country are asking for the services of Parabon Nanolabs. We actually had, one of the bigwigs from Parabon on Criminology.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. So they had this done, and they released the information on an episode of 2020 in the fall of 2016. And what the phenotyping suggested was that the suspect was most likely Native American and European mixed ancestry or Latino. I think most of the genetic markers pointed to, Mexican, Colombian, with some other South American and African countries making up the balance. So Parabon can come out with a confidence indicator, and they said that with 80% confidence, they believe the suspect would have a skin tone somewhere in the olive range. Very few freckles, maybe none at all, black hair. Now, what I think is kind of hard for them is height and weight. So you don't sometimes get that like you would get from an eyewitness, but even eyewitnesses are very often wrong with height and weight.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I just think it's cool that they could narrow down.
Oh, it is the technology today, I think we talked about it. If you are a killer whose DNA is somewhere in storage, you should be shaking in your boots.
Oh, yeah.
There is no doubt, because the technology keeps evolving, that it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, you will be caught for
Yeah.
sure.
It used to be, okay, if you weren't in the database, you were safe. Well, now they're into this narrowing it down through ancestry.
Yeah, your brother, kid, if you have a child, anybody that does it,
they'll figure out who
eventually
you
get
are.
to you. Go make your plea bargain now.
So I want to circle back around to the 911 call. There has been some criticism about the 911 call, concerns voiced especially by a private investigator who works for one of the local papers in Chapel Hill. This guy has said that he's not sure that the caller on the 911 tape is Karina. He believes it sounds more like her friend Marisol.
And he thought it was kind of strange that the caller never said, me, my friend are here and found the body. It's just, it was never mentioned. And he just thought that was strange.
Well, I think the other thing that's been pointed out is that during the entire 911 call, and we just played a piece of it. I didn't have the whole thing, but I think it's about 8 minutes long.
It's pretty long.
Karina, if she's the caller, she never says face name, not one time.
Which I think is strange. I think if you came in and found me, you wouldn't say my friend or my co-host.
I would never say my friend.
No, my
I
co-host.
would say, this son of
He's
a...
not having a good day. My co-host is not having a good day.
He's not.
Can you get somebody here? You would say,
I don't even know who this guy is, but he's not doing well.
right.
But I do think there are people outside of this private investigator, right? And you get this in any case. Anytime there's a 911 call or some type of call where you can analyze how someone is acting, people have said that they just didn't feel like Karina, if she's the one on the call, sounds like a good friend whose really good friend has been murdered.
Yeah, I think the fact that, she uses the word that unconscious.
Yeah.
But yet seeing the amount of blood.
Spatter everywhere.
That she wouldn't be more freaked out or saying, she's dead, instead of just saying she's unconscious. But like you said, unless you're in that situation, who knows how you would react.
Yeah, and you and I are always careful with that, because I think everybody reacts differently in that type of very traumatic situation. But I am saying that there are a lot of people out there that feel as though it's strange the way she acted. Police have their theories, but I think to this point, no one has been named a suspect in this case. Well, first of all, they haven't figured out who this DNA belongs to. I think that's the key. But police do believe that Faith's killer was someone she knew, either in person, on campus, or through her social network. Some have thought that maybe it is even two different suspects. And when you talk about the police work, they interviewed over 2,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
It really is.
Seriously.
And almost half of those willingly submitted for DNA testing.
That
is a lot of people to say, sure, take my DNA. But again, those are confident people, right? Now, does that mean that the other 1,000 are not confident? No, it could just mean that they're not comfortable giving up their DNA. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I've seen too much weird stuff happen with DNA.
I don't think I would give my DNA up unless I was ordered.
But what it's done, right? The combination of the interviews and the DNA testing, it has helped get that, list of potential suspects down. But it's still, I'm assuming, pretty large. In 2017, the police came out and made a statement that they felt Faith's killer was an acquaintance to her, but was actually probably better friends with one of her friends. I guess the thought was this person was upset with Faith, maybe over a fight that she had with her friend, and that they murdered her.
Yeah, it could have been somebody that said, I didn't like the way you treated my friend.
Right, which we don't know who that friend is or would be.
I didn't care for how you did that, so I'm going to take revenge for her. Well, I guess it could have been.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about Karina and how people have thought she acted strangely. There are people that believe that she knows a lot more than what she has told police, or that maybe even her involvement has been to a much larger degree. But I don't think, Gibbs, that police believe that. I think they truly believe that she didn't have anything to do with Faith's murder. But I go back to one thing that you said, and it was when she left that night, she didn't lock the door.
And I think it's strange, but then again,
it could be an oversight.
I mean, it's a 19-year-old girl.
But to me, that's why I think it is strange.
Yeah.
Two young girls living together in an apartment, you would think safety would be of utmost concern. But again, have they been out drinking? Do they have their full faculties?
4 o'clock in the morning.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's really hard to say.
Jordan's downstairs beeping his horn. I don't know if he's beeping his horn, but he's like, he's there. Let's go. I don't know.
Karina has since moved away from North Carolina, and she doesn't speak about the case. I mean, you won't find her talking with the media or anything like that. Unless the police call, she really doesn't have much to do with it. But apparently she's still cooperative with them.
Yeah.
If they have questions or something like that. So I mentioned the private investigator that a local paper hired to analyze that 911 call. That same investigator has found some, what they have called, issues with the police investigation.
Well, I think he thought it was strange that the girls parked in the parking lot across from Thrill, and the police never went to the parking lot owners to get the video security tapes, surveillance tapes. They have the one when the girls walk right out of the door at 2:06, but you don't see anything after that. And it just would have made sense that the police would ask for the additional footage from that owner. And when they did, it was too much time has passed, and the drive had already been re-recorded over.
Well, it was like a year and a half before they went to go ask for it.
Yeah. So
nobody's going to keep video for that long.
Maybe it had something on it that could have been important. You don't know. Maybe it didn't have anything.
Sure. You just never know. But the fact that they didn't check that box as part of the investigation.
Right.
I think the investigator's right to be curious and call that out. That could be a potential screw up.
And then one of the other things that came up when he was researching was that, so the night of the murder, or the morning of, when they taped everything off, the neighbors that lived in the building said the police didn't come to any of their units to check anything out. They didn't go and search the woods behind the apartment building. They just went into her unit only, and that's where the investigation began and stopped. And it wasn't until the State Bureau got involved that more investigation was done. And when the local police came out that first day, they really didn't ask a lot of detailed questions of the neighbors. It wasn't until the state police got involved that more detailed questions were asked. It was just strange that it didn't seem like the investigators dug deep enough.
Well, and so a couple of things. Maybe that police department didn't have a lot of expertise or with murder cases. I don't know. I don't know how many murder cases are in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I don't.
But the other thing is, I think by the time the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation got fully involved, what did we say? That was like a year later. So yeah, you're going to go question people, but they're not going to have the same memory as they would have had that morning later on that day. So I think as of now, the state of North Carolina has Faith Hedgepeth's case as an open investigation, and they feel that it's solvable.
Well, I think, one, it's really not that old of a case.
No.
And I think, and I know you can speak to it more than I can, but with the DNA found on site and the technology, you've seen it. You've done enough cases on it and talked about it. You know where this could possibly head. Yeah,
so I look at it like this now. No DNA whatsoever. You are in the camp of needing someone to come forward and shed light on what really happened. With DNA, and assuming that the DNA they have is the killer. So that's a big assumption, right? Could that DNA have come from someone else? Now, the fact that there was semen is pretty telling.
Yeah. I mean, I guess someone could argue that something occurred before.
But you can make the argument all you want, but right. I mean, it's not like this is DNA from a male study buddy that was over a week before.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah. Chances are this person was in contact that night, is most likely the killer. With that and the technology, I think you'll be hearing about this case in 2019.
There you go.
I think by the end of this year, you will see in the news a suspect named. That's what I believe.
That'd be great.
I mean, the technology is just advancing that fast.
Well, we know her family would love that.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the case of Faith Hedgepeth. And I do think it's one that will be solved and sooner than later. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
I shall.
I shan't.
Hi, this is Lina from Sweden again. I'm just going to tell you that now I'm listening to the unsolved episodes, and I'm at episode 67 right now. I'm going to start 68. Anyway, what I was going to say was this, that here in Sweden we have an enormous unsolved case, and it would be really fun to hear your take on it, what actually happened, and stuff like that. It's the murder of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme in Stockholm, 1986. You have probably heard something about it, I guess. Maybe someone has told you to look into it, but it would be fun both to hear, like, I don't know, an American view of what might have happened. We have had different sort of theories here through all the years, and, well, it's a case that I've grown up with. I was 8 years old when it happened, and it would be fun to hear you. Fun and interesting. Not fun that he's dead, of course, but, well, you know what I mean. I'm sorry for being so rambling. This is making me nervous, speaking English into an answering machine. Anyway, stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
So that's Lena from Sweden.
Nina from Sweden.
Nina
from Sweden.
Lida. I'm saying L, you're saying N.
I said Lida.
That time you did.
I've always
Every
said
other
it.
time you said Nina.
I did not. You're hearing things.
Her English so much better than yours. And she's worried about leaving a voicemail.
That's because I'm part Italiano.
Italianano?
Yes.
Now you've got two N's in there.
That's I do. It's all right. That was my bad, you know.
Lena, you can leave a voicemail.
This is my
anytime.
Italian.
What I was going to say is we got to do a case from Sweden.
We should do one from Sweden.
Look into that prime minister one.
Yeah.
Get on that.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. My name is Kathy, and I've been listening to your podcast for a long time. I originally started out with criminology, and that was actually the first podcast I listened to all the way through. The Zodiac just hooked me in, and you guys did such an amazing job. And then after that, I found your other podcast and wound up, finding you here. So my favorite all-time season has got to be the Golden State Killer. Anybody who starts asking me about all the podcasts I listen to, because I post about them constantly on Facebook, I always tell them to start with your podcast Criminology. And I am coming to CrimeCon, and I can't wait to meet you guys. You guys really do an amazing job, and I appreciate all the work that you put into it and supporting the victims' families, and then also just spreading the word about, safety in general. I'm a 911 dispatcher, and so I see a lot of the beginning part of the incidents and never get to see it all the way through on the side of the phone. So I just wanted to say I appreciate you bringing awareness to everyone that's in public service. I can't wait to meet y'all in New Orleans, and I'm both Team Gibby and Team Mike as well. So talk to y'all later. Bye.
So appreciate the shout out about criminology. The Golden State Killer season. I don't even remember what it was. 17 episodes, 16, 17, 18 episodes on one thing.
I wasn't invited.
I know you weren't, but it was massive.
Yeah. It was all right.
It was all right.
No,
but
was
she
good.
loves us.
It was good. It got a lot of strong, positive feedback.
Well, it didn't hurt that they captured Joseph J. D'Angelo right in the middle of us doing it.
That was good as well. But no, it was done very well.
Yeah,
the podcast was for sure.
We had some great guests and stuff like that. But we have a lot of 911 operators.
We do
that listen to the show, and that's awesome.
I think it's great.
We have our badges now.
We do. We're official.
We're official.
It's weird though when I show up
as part of your costume.
I do when I show up places. They're like, but you don't really know CPR, and I'm like,
if we're willing to drive to Illinois, which is next to Illinois,
yeah,
we can go on a tour.
We can,
I think
we will be there.
Pretty fun. I actually want to take a call.
We will be in Illinois in July.
Well, that's true.
So we'll be Chicago, but we'll see you in New Orleans.
Yeah, no, can't wait.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. My name's Jeff. I'm from Santa Rosa, California, out here in wine country. I just want to say I'm a big fan, and so is my wife, of both your podcasts, True Crime All the Time and True Crime All the Time Unsolved. I wanted to throw one out there. Kind of one of my pet cases that I like to follow is the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. It's unsolved right now, and the FBI and local authorities think there may be as many as 17 victims. That would put it at probably the highest body count for a serial killer that hasn't been found yet in California. So I want to throw it out there. The one thing that's really, really interesting about it is the list of suspects that had to be cleared. And that's because Santa Rosa being so close to San Francisco in the early 70s means that you have to take into account the Zodiac Killer, Ted Bundy, the Hillside Stranglers. And if you don't believe Arthur Lee Allen is the Zodiac Killer, you also have to take into account him because he was living in Santa Rosa right around this time. So I think it's one you guys should definitely take a look at. It's a great case that's really, really interesting. So thanks again for everything you guys do, and keep your own time ticking.
All right. That was an awesome voicemail. I know we have that on the list. Gibby's been working on it. He's been doing some research.
Thanks for that, Jeff.
During that time frame, if you think about it, a lot of killers.
A lot. It really was.
In that area.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Bad time to hitchhike.
Hi, this is Loretta from Corinth, Mississippi, and I'm new to your podcast, and I love it. I listen to it while I sew at work, and I've been binge listening. I've been listening for about a month, and I'm already on episode 83. So I listen about 8 to 9 hours a day, every day, and sometimes I even have to listen when I go home. But I wanted to give you a couple of suggestions. One happened in Bungle, Mississippi. It was the murder of Stacy Pannell, and it happened at the dorm in the college while I was in college there. And it was made the whole city just really scary and things that could happen in the dorm. And another one was when I moved to Michigan and lived there for a while, was Jeff Van Patten, who was our auto mechanic, had killed his girlfriend. And when it first happened, they said she took off, that they'd gotten a fight and she left. But as it turned out, that he had actually killed her and cut her up into pieces, wrapped her up in a waterbed, tried to burn her, and that didn't work. So then he tried feeding her to his dogs. And it was quite the investigation. It happened in 1990. And I just wanted to say that I love listening to your podcast. And I am Team Gibby. I love your show. And keep your own time ticking. Thanks a lot for everything you do. Bye.
All right. Love it.
I really loved it.
We got a couple of good suggestions that we'll look into. All right. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Hey folks, don't forget to check out our sponsor, BetterHelp. Whatever struggles you're facing, depression, anxiety, trauma, grief, BetterHelp can connect you with a professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. Our listeners get 10% off your first month with the discount code TCAT. Go to betterhelp.com/TCAT and fill out a questionnaire to get matched with a counselor you'll love today.